Iran's government says it's reviewing the latest proposal from Washington for a potential deal to end the nearly 3-month war that has sent global fuel prices soaring. Iran's foreign minister met with the visiting Pakistani interior minister to discuss that proposal. Marco Rubio says there has been some slight progress in talks with Iran, but that he didn't want to exaggerate how much. Meanwhile, the UAE's presidential advisor says there is a 50-50 chance of a peace agreement. For more on this, we can cross now to London and bring in Dr. Anahita Motazed, visiting senior fellow in the Department of International Relations at the London School of Economics. Thank you so much for joining us today. So let's begin with this proposal that Iran is mulling over. What more do we know about what's in it?
Yes, thank you for having me. I think this is a critical situation at the moment after 3 months nearly war and a very hard situation. Iran is mentioning just considering the U.S. Proposal, and they are revising it, what at the same time they are posturing publicly. They are ready for any kind of resuming war or conflict with the U.S. And even the broader at the regional level. But I think that we should notice that at the moment there are 3 overlapping negotiation tracks at the same time. At first, and the core issue, which is the nuclear file of Iran, and while at the same time both sides are stressing on their maximalist position, but the U.S. president and President Trump is insisting on Iranian releasing and nuclear program to zero enrichment, and also a longer term or even 20-year of halting enriching uranium, as well as 400 halting handing over its 400 kilogram of enriched uranium, and also dismantling its major sites and even reducing it to just having one site, which is in Tehran, and for medical purposes. While at the same time, Iran rejects this strongly, and Iran still preserves its right for enrichment of the uranium, as well as keeping and sustaining its right for having its civilian nuclear program. So I think the second core of this discussion and proposal is the lifting sanctions, which Iran is insisting for that. Iran is under very harsh economic position, so Iran is really trying to find a way to just releasing, just bringing down that kind of it's pursuing the nuclear issue in exchange for lifting the economic and the maritime sanctions, and also unfreezing assets on the side of Iran. And on the third level, I think we have to consider the security at the regional level, and the security especially of the choke point of the Strait of Hormuz, which at the moment is playing a very crucial and vital leverage for Iran in the negotiations, but at the same time also creating problem for the other regional and the other global powers at the same time.
Now, Anahita, when you mentioned the nuclear file there, and that the U.S. has been pretty adamant that Iran gives up its enriched uranium reserves, and that is, again, something, as you just mentioned, Tehran has so far said no to. Do you believe there would ever be a situation in which Washington could get Tehran to a yes on this? Maybe that lifting of sanctions, some future number that they would agree to?
It's very hard, to be honest, because I think first we have to see that first there is a deep mistrust between the two sides, and Iran doesn't trust the US. So at the same time, I think the position at this time in Iran is not giving up any of that 400 kilogram of enriched uranium. So I see it very hard, and it depends on especially the next round of the negotiation that it apparently is going to happen the next week. But and one more point is that the two sides, they are at the very incompatible end goals. So really, handing over those kind of 400 kilograms of enriched uranium, I think would be very difficult that Iran accept it at this time, at least.
And Anahita, you also mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we know that Tehran has said they've allowed some ships to go through it, but there's also reports that Tehran is trying to get Oman to join them in a tolling system, of which that's being discussed at the NATO meeting today, and the alliance has said that's a non-starter. So what's the situation there with the Strait?
I think still Iran is persisting of that toll system, collaborating with the Omani's partner. But at the same time, the Marco Rubio just a few hours ago, he rejected and mentioned that it is unacceptable by Iranian side if they want to still persist on this tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz. And if Iran is still insisting on this, according to the Marco Rubio and even the U.S. administration, they believe that this makes any kind of upcoming negotiation unfeasible.
And we also know that any ceasefire deal or any deal to end this peace deal, Tehran wants Lebanon included in it, but Israel is carrying out strikes on what it says are Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. So where does this leave Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who I think is unhappy with these negotiations?
Yes. If any kind of ceasefire or even agreement or deal has been reached will be reached in the next week, it would be the short deal. We cannot expect it would be a long-term and durable deal. But at the same time, I think Israel wouldn't accept that because still they think that, and Benjamin Netanyahu is thinking that the threat of Iran is remaining there, especially for Israel. So that's the reason even Israel at this time is trying to, in any way, just not stopping the attacking to Hezbollah. And at the same time, Iran is expecting and insisting on including also Lebanon and stopping the war at the whole front, including the Lebanon front, to put an end by the U.S., which I think that Israelis would be very hard to accept this, especially at this time.
Now, Anahita, we've seen some remarks coming out of the UAE regarding the negotiations and Iran's position. How has the U.S.-Israel war on Iran changed relations between the Gulf countries? And how do they now view Washington and Tehran?
Yes, I think one of the major consequences of this war was shifting the image of Iran by the Arab states in the Persian Gulf, mainly UAE and also Saudi Arabia. So I think at this time, even reaching any deal, however, I think the mediator, including the Qatar and the Pakistanis at the moment who are active to narrowing the differences between Iran and the US, but at the same time, they have that fear that what comes next after any ceasefire for a longer term or even reaching a deal. And I think it's not about the Israel itself, itself. But Saudi Arabia, as well as the UAE, however, they are pursuing the diplomatic track at the same time, but they have the fear, because the day after the war, they still feel that they are not anymore safe because of Iran's retaliatory action during this recent conflict.
Anahita, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, sharing your expertise. That's Dr. Anahita Motazed, visiting Senior Fellow in the Department of International Relations at the London School of Economics.